Hello. Today we're going to do a quick video on the sort of background of comic book coloring. It'll be quicker than the history of comics one I did, I promise. I got a little carried away there, but it's a really interesting topic that I enjoy talking about. So let's take a look at the history of comic book coloring. We're going to look at a few sites here that I found that have got some really good examples. It's almost hard to imagine, but this was done, comic book coloring was done, just like everything was done back then, without computers. It was done by hand. And what would happen is the artist would draw the comic, it would get inked. The pages would then get Xeroxed, shrunk down to, I think it's like 80%, or I can't remember the exact number, but it would get shrunk down. And then the artist, the colorist, would actually use markers or Doc Martin dyes, which are really saturated pigments, and they would color the page, the 8.5 by 11 page, almost like a coloring book. They'd get the colors right on the suits, and here's a good example of one here that was on the site. This is all watercolors. And they would use, or these dyes or these markers. And then would come the interesting part. And what would happen is this chart right here. This is a Comico site. The artist, the colorist would be given a chart like this, and there's all these codes. So it'd be like, if you colored with this color, let's say, you would say, let's go back to this. So we're looking at this color here, he labeled as YR3B2. So you would have to actually see the colors that you colored here, go back to your chart, or look at your chart, and say, oh, okay, it's it's got red RYB2, and you would write those in, because these were the colors you could use. It started out being, I believe it started out being like 63 colors, and then it moved up to, after the 70s, it moved up to 124 colors you could use. And they would have to look here, and you'd say, okay, there's that blue, there's like Superman's blue, so it's like B2, blah, blah, blah. You'd actually have to write that in. Of course, I never had to do this. This is way before me. You'd write that in so that, see, yellow 3. That same one there, yellow 3. And you can notice this is the same color. And they'd send that in to the color separator, which would, oddly enough, just be a bunch of people, men, women, in a room. They would be making plates. They'd have acetate, this plasticky stuff, and they'd paint in different shades of gray or opacity, and those plates would be shot, and then they would be put down, and they would make plates with them. And where it was really thin, stuff would go through. Ink, like say yellow ink would go through where it's thin, and where it's darker it wouldn't. And you build up these colors, CMYK, and you would get a colored page. Now, I mean, as you can guess, this took forever, and you didn't always get the color, because let's say, it's not going to be exactly the way it looks here. Like, let's look at this. Here's the color here for the suit. There's the mix they put in. And if we look at the actual page, come on. Oh, it doesn't. They don't have a bigger version of that one. You can see it's quite different. Look how light that is. Look how dark that is. This color is definitely different from this, but maybe they wrote the number in wrong, or maybe the number wasn't the exact same, or maybe the plates just they put it down wrong, because this is being done by hand. As you can see, here's the same horizon line, but this is yellow and this is red. These two colors are different. It was a very different process. Nowadays, we complain as colorists, wow, it looks darker, it looks lighter, this color doesn't look quite right. But there's such subtle shifts compared to this. So that's what they would have to do. They'd paint it in, check their code, write the code in, send it to a separator, and you'd get who knows what back. And that's how it went until the mid '80s, until your digital coloring started with different companies that we'll look at later, like Steve, I can never say his name, Olaf, who did started really the process of comic book coloring via the computer. And here's some more. Let's see. Let's look at. Here's some more color guides and a simplified chart. This is probably the 64 color chart. Earlier ways too, where you would actually make the acetate, you'd paint on the page, overlay the acetate. And it really wasn't until the first comic that was a digital comic done on the computer was by First Comics, and it was around 85 to 88. And it was actually issue 85, where it was done on the computer. And you can see it's very bitmap looking. If you're used to old like Macintoshes, you can sort of see that sort of bitmappy look to it. And then more books came out, like Iron Man Crash. I'll scan some pages from this. I've got this done on the computer, and it was just like, wow, it was amazing. It looked so strange. And then one that came out shortly after was digital Batman Digital Justice, which was very crazy sort of looking colors. Let's see if we can find one real quick. Page. Go to images. So here's your, here's like an idea of a page. It's kind of interesting. But this was digital colors back then. Let's look at another page real quick. Very, crude by today's standards, but back then I remember getting this and thinking, oh my god, that's amazing. But again, today, much, much different. Then more and more companies started fooling around with digital colors. And let's look at the and I had this page up, and then it kind of got closed off on me here while we were doing this. And okay, I found the site. It was from Steve Olaf. Violoptics, that was his company, and really the thing that turned comics towards digital was when they gave him the gig to do Akira, which is being translated into English right here. And they after that, it pretty much took off. It won the Harvey Award, as you can see right here, in '89. Because nothing looked like it. It was the colors were vibrant. They were realistic. They looked really interesting. They weren't like the Crash, which kind of looked muddy and kind of looked kind of bizarre. People really weren't used to that. And then, of course, as things moved on, I mean, you've got Image Comics and computers getting more and more sophisticated. Programs like Photoshop coming around that, back then was revolutionary. And you didn't have all these printing strides. You didn't have all these hindrances. You weren't stuck with different colors and just a few colors that you can use. There's a 404 error there. They had a really good page here that I wanted to show you. Blue lines. Here's some color guides. From back in the day before the numbers are on them. And let me look up one more thing here, because I thought it was really interesting. is it? Okay, so the main thing is okay, so if we go to Steve's page again, and again we look at the timeline here of 89 to 91, this is when computers started happening. And again, after that it just exploded, and now we can color comics, we use the computer, we send it off to the printer. It's amazingly simple. Take a look at some of these old books. Iron Man Crash, you can find them online, you can find pages online. Let me show you a page from that. Again, very kind of strange looking, kind of muddy, not really bright colors. You can see it's very dark, gloomy, and just kind of weird looking to today's standards, opposed to what then Steve was able to do not that long after. Not to take anything away from him, because it wasn't just technology, it was his skill. So take a look at that, color guides. Do a little bit of research on those. You can buy color guides, actually, if you go to eBay. Because technically they are a type of original art. You've got someone painting this line art. So, here's a very famous artist, Bill Sienkiewicz, and here's his. I'm not sure. I haven't read this, but color guides. I'm not sure if he did the color guides on it. You'd probably want to read this if you're ever gonna pick this up. Artistic job watercolor. I'm not sure again if he actually did the color guides, but the art isn't original. It's a photocopy, but the coloring is, the painting is, and there are people that just sort of buy these color guides. So again, thank goodness, color guides and things like this are a thing of the past, where we can actually create really vibrant, really exciting looking pages on the computer.